Young. Mr. Young, not guilty.
So there you have it. 57 votes for guilty, 43 for not guilty. The president is acquitted. It takes 67 votes. It takes 2/3 of the Senate for a conviction. So former President Donald John Trump is acquitted in this second impeachment trial, as he was acquitted 1 year ago. One significant difference from last year. Last year, Mitt Romney became the first sitting senator from the president's own party to vote for an impeachment, for a conviction in an impeachment trial. Today, seven Republican senators have voted for conviction in this trial. I want to start with Rachel Scott right now. Rachel, that is two more than voted against the motion to dismiss the charges at the beginning of this trial. The surprises there, Richard Burr and Bill Cassidy.
Both of them surprises in this, and also two of these, I'm noting, Republican senators are not running for re-election. Richard Burr as well as Pat Toomey joining this list of 7 Republican senators who have now voted to convict former President Donald Trump. It is clear that this was a very personal process.
The yeas are 57. The nays are 43. 2/3 of the senators present not having voted guilty. The Senate judges that the respondent, Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, is not guilty as charged in the article of impeachment. The presiding officer directs judgment to be entered in accordance with the judgment of the Senate as follows. The Senate, having tried Donald John Trump, former President of the United States, upon one article of impeachment exhibited against him by the House Representatives, and 2/3 of the senators present not having found him guilty of the charge contained therein, it is therefore ordered and adjudged that the said Donald John Trump be, and he is hereby, acquitted of the charge in said article.
There you have it, read by the President pro tempore of the Senate, Patrick Leahy. President Trump has been acquitted.
Majority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, I send an order to the desk.
And the clerk will report.
Ordered that the Secretary be directed to communicate to the Secretary of State as provided by Rule 23 of the Rules of Procedure and Practice in the Senate when sitting on impeachment trials, and also to the House of Representatives, the judgment of the Senate in the case of Donald John Trump, and transmit a certified copy of the judgment to each.
Without objection, the order will be entered. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate, sitting as a court of impeachment on the article against Donald John Trump, adjourn sine die.
And without objection, the motion is agreed to. The Senate, sitting as a court of impeachment, stands adjourned sine die. And could I have order, please? The presiding officer, the acting sergeant at arms will escort the House managers out of the Senate chamber.
And that is it. Donald John Trump, the only American president to impeach twice, has now been acquitted twice by the Senate. You see the vote there, 57, 43, 7 Republicans joining all 50 Democrats to convict. Chief Washington correspondent John Karl. No doubt the fact that he is the only American president to be impeached twice, the fact that he was charged with inciting an insurrection on January 6th, acquitted, yes, but clearly the first paragraph of his biography.
Both of those facts, the first paragraph of his biography, and he will claim vindication by being acquitted here. But, George, that is quite a statement. 7 Republican senators voting to find former President Trump guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. And, George, you have to wonder.
Mr. President, can we have order?
The Senate is not in order, and the Senate will be in order.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate be in a period of mourning business with
when you
senators
consider that so many of the Republicans said that this was unconstitutional to hold a trial after he left office. If he had still been in office, would 10 of those have voted to convict him? I think it's a very real possibility.
Senator from New York, Majority Leader.
Very real possibility. Let's go to our legal team.
Mr. President,
Dan Abrams and Kate Shaw. Dan, your thoughts on this historic day?
Was open. Mr. President, can we have order,
watching
please?
the argument of the president's counsel, I think, can't be left unresponded to, and I don't think Raskin did a terrific job in his rebuttal there. I mean, you can believe that the president should not be impeached. You can believe that a former president shouldn't even have to go through this proceeding. You can believe that what the president did didn't rise to the level of the federal crime of incitement. But you have to believe that peddling the lie that the election was stolen was wrong. And you had Van der Veen there claiming that it was, quote, commonplace political rhetoric. No matter what the outcome is here, it wasn't commonplace political rhetoric. This was dangerous stuff. And the fact that he went there, that the argument was, he used words, a charade, a spectacle, political vendetta, et cetera, I think that does a disservice to what this was all about. You can believe, again, that this shouldn't have ended up in a conviction. But this also comes from an attorney who sued the president in August of 2020, in part for lying about making false claims of election fraud. So, I just think it's important as we take a step back and we look at this, that this acquittal isn't viewed as a stamp of the president did nothing wrong.
And I want to take that to Kate Shaw. So, Kate Shaw, in the modern era, we've had 3 impeachment trials, 4 impeachment proceedings. Of course, Richard Nixon resigned when it became clear he would be impeached and convicted in the Senate. There had been a lot of talk in the days and months, years leading up to this about how the bar had been lowered on impeachment. But as Congressman Raskin said in his close right there, it's hard for us to imagine that the founders would have imagined that the President of the United States would actually incite an insurrection as charged by the House managers against his own government.
That's right. So I think that there always is worry that, I think especially now that we've had 2 impeachments over the course of just these 2 years, that is the bar lowered? Are we going to be in an age of partisan impeachment where presidents face impeachment routinely if, the other party happens to control the House? And I actually think that the vote count today suggests that we don't actually need to be too worried about that. This was not a purely partisan impeachment. It wasn't purely partisan in the vote in the House, in which 10 Republicans voted to impeach, and it wasn't a purely partisan vote today, right? 7 members of the president's own party voting to convict is a pretty serious condemnation in a hyper-polarized moment. And I do think that John Carl's point is excellent. Maybe you could have gotten an additional 10 if, in fact, Mitch McConnell had agreed to actually hold this trial prior to January 20th, when President Trump was still in office. I think that that's, the possibility of that historical counterfactual has to be part of how we understand these proceedings. We know that, or at least it's well understood, that Nixon probably would have been impeached and removed had he not resigned. And maybe one read of what we just witnessed is there's a very likely, or at least a real possibility, that Donald Trump would have been removed if all of these proceedings had occurred prior to January 20th.
In fact, even Mitch McConnell, who chose not to go forward with the trial while he was still majority leader, did say that this was a close call and said, and citing as his final reason to acquit Kate Shaw, the idea that he believes that the primary purpose of an impeachment trial is to remove from office. That gave the cover to many Republican senators.
Yes, and I think that in Mitch McConnell's statement, he also suggested that the criminal process remains available for ex-presidents as another potential mechanism of accountability. So now, what do I think about whether he would support that if it actually materialized? I really don't know, but I did think it was striking that he made specific reference to other possible avenues of accountability. And of course, I think a lot of attention in the wake of this will turn to that question: will there be criminal proceedings, state or federal, against former President Trump?